Hello, welcome to the wrap up. Let's start off with stating the obvious. That is, yes, I am wearing the FBI shirt again, or sweater. And that is fine because that means I get to use the photo I took for that video to use as the thumbnail for this video. We love that for me. I'm very skilled at this. It's also called I just don't want to take another photo. Dear God, I got plenty of me. So yeah, we're here for a wrap up. I'm gonna try to do this fast, but hear me out. In order to reach 200 books in 2022, which I did do it. I had to read 35 books, and also I DNF too. Uh, so that's fun. I didn't like catalog which ones were ebooks and mixed media and audiobooks and all that, how I read them, because the way that I normally do that got deleted like 2 weeks ago. I'm slightly upset, but also not that upset because it was right before I started reading like 10 books a day because of comic books, and that would have been real annoying for all that logging. So like I'm upset that I lost all the work I did throughout the year, but I'm not upset in the fact that I didn't have to do any more work for the rest of the year in that aspect. We love that. That's, for me, it's just a good time. But the other like small little things is that the average rating was 3.43. I read some really bad books. And I read some good ones. The highest I ever rated a book this whole month was a 4.5, and that was a reread, so I couldn't use that as my favorite of the month. So it was like me going through all these 4-star books and be like, okay, which one do I label my favorite? I contemplated doing a historical romance novella, but I didn't. It was almost done. I read a total of 8,322 pages for an average of 268 per day, but like also like most days or like a lot of days I didn't read anything or I read very little, and then there were like days, especially near the end of the month, where I was like reading 800 pages a day, reading like 4 books a day, 8 books a day, in order to reach this goal, which I did. It's psychotic. But before we go into actually listing off all the books I read and me trying to give you the bare minimum, because I really don't want to edit an hour-long wrap-up again, right? We need to talk about who is watching that. There's like a lot of views on that hour-long wrap-up. We need to have a conversation. Who's doing that? But I also want to talk about stat stuff for my 2022 wrap-up. I'm using the one from Storygraph because it's more accurate, because it does the half stars, which is lovely. It did not put in the last book I read of the year, which was Before Midnight on the 31st, but it didn't put it in, and it still hasn't put it in, so I think it's just not gonna be in there, which is a real shame. But the actual reading goal thing says that I did read 200 books in the year, and I achieved my reading goal for the year, so that's, I mean, it's fine. And as long as it registers that I did it, I don't really care. My 5 most read genres, let's be real, it's actually 3 genres, because 2 of them are not actually their own genres, they're just sub things. But it goes in order: fantasy, very right after that is romance. I think it's like 78 fantasy, 76 romance. My computer's over here, that's what I'm looking at. And then this is why I said that it's actually 3, is because right after that is YA, at 66, which is actually less than normal. I think it's because of the fact that I was reading so much romance and I prefer adult romance over YA romance. That's why. But that's fine, because I have started not really growing out, but narrowing down my taste for YA. And so when I do read a YA, if it instantly doesn't catch me, I'm DNFing it. So I think that's why. And then after that is the gay books at 42. I would like to thank June for this one. Thank you very much. Honestly, I think it's the most I've read of gay books in a year. We love that for me. Honestly, should read more. Let's be real. But yeah, no, that's great. We love that. And then after that is contemporary at 31, which did surprise me because I don't generally feel like I read a lot of contemporaries. I think when I read contemporaries, it's just a subgenre, like contemporary romance. Like it's a romance that happens to be contemporary. Like I read a few of those, quite a bit of those actually, let's be real. And I think that's why that one is so high. Because otherwise I don't really like just contemporary books. Same way I don't really like just historical books, because I think right after contemporary is historical. I don't really like just historical literary books. And I don't typically like contemporary literary books. There's like a few that I really do enjoy, but otherwise I really don't like them. So I think it's because those two are like the subgenres of the romance that I was reading a lot, right? So that makes sense. Do we need to talk about how the longest book I read was Count of Monte Cristo and the shortest one was Ravished by the Triceratops? No. We just need to talk about how I'm crazy. The authors I read the most from, the three most common authors. Brian K. Vaughan is the first one. That is because I read a lot of comic books. I reread my favorite comic book series this month in December. And they were written by him. And I also read another thing by him. So, you know, that's fun. And then there was Brandon Sanderson. Not a surprise. I did read a lot of Brandon Sanderson trying to get through Mistborn and other general things. Like there's like a short story. I read The Arithmetist, all that fun stuff. And then Rochelle Mead, which makes sense because I read all of Vampire Academy, which is 6 books, but I read the first one twice this year. So I say this year, 2022. So 7 books. So yeah, that's fun. My average rating was 3.62. I don't think the 4-star for the last book really affects that much. So, you know, but that's like really high for me. And we love that for me. I generally, my average rating before 2022 was closer to like the 3.4 range, like what my average rating in December was, but it was a 3.62 in all of 2022, and I think that's because of the fact that I DNF'd more, and we love that for me. My best month based on the average rating was September with 3.88. I already told H of this. H is very proud, okay? The least best one was April, which is surprising to me, with a 3.28. I really, honestly, it could have been December for a bit there. We don't need to talk about it. And December is the month that I read the most amount of pages. I think that's like a general thing every year because I'm trying to reach my goal. That is way too high. We don't need to talk about that. And all that fun stuff. I read books, 106 of them were by new authors to me, which we love. 125 books I read were part of series. I reread 33 books, which isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, so. And then I DNF'd 11 books. And 85 books were books that I owned. Whether that be ones from on my Kindle / iPad or on my actual physical bookshelves. So that's fun. And then I did complete all 8 of my reading challenges, including the reading like 12 classics and 12 nonfiction and all that fun stuff, which I am doing again this year. So that is like my overall yearly statistics, fun stuff. And we can go into the actual things I read in December. So yeah, it's gonna be fast. I don't want to talk long about anything. The first one was The Demigod Diaries by Rick Riordan. I've been rereading the Percy Jackson books, with H and H's bestie. I've kind of just shoehorned myself into their read along of the whole series. I am now officially ahead of H. I don't know how this happened. I was behind by like months. I think it's because I read multiple books. Anyways, in order to keep track of all of them, and as I go through this reread and finally finishing some of the series and all this fun stuff, I joined a Storygraph challenge where it has a list of all the books, including all the little like short stories and where they go in the series and the collections that those are in. And The Demigod Diaries is like one of those collection of short stories from the universe. And I just had the audiobook and it was like 3 hours long and I just read it in one day. It was fine. 3 stars. It wasn't the worst one. I had read one of these previously and it wasn't that good. This one I definitely preferred. It was fine. It was a good time. I could actually show you the whiteboard that's behind me. Should I angle myself differently? Curl up? You don't need to pay attention to this. This is not important. This is 2023 stuff. Just pay attention to this. But yeah, it was a quick audiobook. It was fun. I forgot about not romantic relationship, but a family relationship that happens in the later books. So that was fun. And then I have them in the wrong order, the books, the physical books I own. I read the last book in in the Vampire Academy series, Last Sacrifice. There we go. Which I rated 3.5 stars, which means I rated the whole entire second half of the series 3.5 stars. Which, yeah, kind of meets my feelings for the second half. I didn't like it in comparison to the first half. The first half, god tier. Second half, meh. And that's fine. I'm just happy that I finally finished the series and that I can put this on my shelf, and the anniversary edition of the first one I have can be displayed. I mean, right here in the unhaul pile, the one that you can't see is the old version I had. Well, I still own it, but the one that has the poster from the movie I don't need to think about. No, I have still not watched the TV show. We don't need to talk about that. I will eventually. But yeah, this is, I think, the biggest book I read this month. Which is fun. I only read one book that was over 500 pages, and that's this. Most of the books I did read were short, but they were also, like, poetry collections, graphic novels, comic books, so makes sense. And then there was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch for the Red Reading Vlog. I should mention, this was for the, trying to think of words, the weekend reading vlog. Any vlog that I mention will be up above in the cards, right? Okay. Dark Matter, Red Reading Vlog. If you want to watch me go through it, watch the 2 larger vlogs from December, because oh my god. Moral of the story, I DNF'd it. The plot was basically the same as Recursion, which I had previously read, even though Dark Matter came out first, and I had heard that generally the main 3, that one, Recursion, and it's an Upgrade, the new one, they're all generally the same. If it didn't have the same theme, then it wouldn't impact me the same amount, because the theme of Recursion was something I really enjoy, and if it was the same theme, then what's the point? Because I already read it, right? And then as soon as I DNF'd it and put it on Goodreads, I DNF'd it. Someone I'm friends with on Goodreads said it was a good thing, because the main character becomes really insufferable, and I was like, I already don't like him, so I guess it's really, really good that I DNF'd it. Though, also I should have finished it, because then I would have felt better about DNFing a later book. But after that, I read Beloved by Toni Morrison, which I rated 4 stars. Great book. It's kind of slow, whatever. I would recommend the audiobook because she narrates it herself. We love that. I kind of knew all the plot twists because of the foreword. She talks about the inspiration for basically the plot of this book, which isn't much plot. It's mostly character based, and I tend to prefer plot based books, but it was fine. Also, when it reached that point where you figure out what happened and all this stuff to Beloved and why all this stuff is happening, I was like, you know what, I already knew this, but it's still really impactful, because it's a thing, okay? And it was good. I recommend. Final Girls by Riley Sager. I rated 2 stars. This is the one I should have DNF'd, okay? I started out liking it. I think when I started to edit that vlog is around the time that I finally fixed my editing software so I can add text in the thing, right? So there's a part where when I start reading the Final Girls where I'm like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this book and all this stuff. And then, like, I think in text on bottom I said something like, girl, just you wait, or something like that, because, I generally really like the setup. I had a good time. I thought I was gonna enjoy it. I had one hit and one miss with Riley Sager. So I was like, this could be a good time, all this fun stuff. 1, I guess the plot twist, like, a long time ago. And 2, every goddamn character is insufferable in this goddamn book. And it pissed me off so much. I was so angry. I was just speed reading it, trying to get out of there as fast as I physically could, and I should have DNF'd it. But I felt bad because I already DNF'd a book, Dark Matter, in that vlog. So if I had just read Dark Matter, I would have DNF'd the Riley Sager and I would have been happy. And it didn't matter because I DNF'd 2 books in that vlog anyways. Should have been a 3 DNFs vlog. Honestly, like, that book, physically pains me. I'd like to reiterate, when I said most surprising books, the least favorite, or most surprising bad one was, The Last Time I Lied, the other Riley Sager that I read that I didn't like. And I would like to put in this one, because what was this? I have one more Riley Sager that I plan to read, which is Lock Every Door, for the, in February, actually, so next month, for the next, color-themed reading vlog. And I'm scared now, because there's 1 hit 2 misses now. And I don't think I'm going to read any more of his unless if something comes out that I like really, really interested in. Otherwise, I don't think so. Also, I know Grady Hendrix also had a book about Final Girls. I think it's the Final Girl Support Group or something like that. And I may read that one at some point soon because like I think Grady Hendrix is more in my speed. So because like I think it's somewhat a little bit similar thing, so I think I could really enjoy that. Okay. But yeah, no, I didn't like it. And then I read Dark Clover by J.R. Ward. I really thought this could be like a new vampire series for me to read after finishing Vampire Academy. But I didn't care really at all. That being said, the romance aspect in this I did really enjoy, especially between the main character and her love interest. I don't remember anyone's name. His name's Wrath. I know that because it was so weird. Beth, that's her name. Between Beth and Wrath, I actually enjoyed that part because the way that they communicated and dealt with their own traumas, but also how they helped the other one deal with their traumas and all that fun stuff. Hear me out. It just had communication in it and was beautiful and I loved it. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about Wrath's kind of ex being with the cop friend of Beth. That was weird. I don't know how I feel about that. And I assume the rest of the series follows the other members in the Dagger Brotherhood. Which is fine. I just don't really care enough about the other characters or any of that stuff to really continue. So I don't think I'm going to continue the series. But I rated it 3 stars and I had a good time. It was a good time. I'm glad I bought this at I think it was a used bookstore, my favorite bookstore. Yes. Used so that I could finally read it because I couldn't find it online anywhere without having to spend money and it was cheaper to buy it like this. But yeah, and then the second DNF is Evernight by Claudia Gray. Okay, so like apparently it's vampire. I don't know. I think I read like a quarter of it. There were no vampires. Where were they? I don't know. I chose that book for that vlog like a year ago, basically. And I was like, hey, when I went to read the synopsis finally, I was like, hey, I don't think this is gonna be my type of book. I have another like pet peeve type thing I have with books is when, especially in high school, to like, I want to say like 20-year-old people treat characters in a certain way, especially the main character, for like no reason, just to like make drama. It really irks me. I really hate that. And that was basically the premise of the whole entire book. And so I was like, you know what? I'm probably not gonna enjoy it, but I will try it. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it, so I DNF'd it. The romance, I don't get it at all. The premise, I guess I somewhat get, but like also where were the vampires? I don't know. I never saw them. And every other character, not even every other character, every character, including the main character, made me want to rip out my own skin. That made no sense. But you get my general theme. It made my skin itch how much I hated this book, so I DNF'd it. You love that for me. And then I read Paper Girls Volume 1, which is the other book also by Brian K. Vaughan or whatever, however you pronounce his last name. I don't know. And I heard good things about it, but I rated it 3 stars. It was fine. It was whatever. It wasn't like my favorite thing ever. I don't know if I'll ever continue it. I don't think so. There's another comic book / graphic novel, first book in a series that I rated 3 stars, and there's a higher chance I'll continue that one over this one. Because this one was like, whatever. I didn't really like any of the characters, the plot, I was confused, and that's with like time travel stuff, and I love time travel stuff. So I'm like, whatever. And moving on. Then I read the Anthropocene Reviewed. Did I pronounce that right? Probably not. By John Green. Actually I read that like throughout the whole month. I read the audiobook version, which he narrates himself. I recommend it that way. Basically, I needed to read 2 more nonfictions throughout the month to reach my nonfiction goal. That's a nonfiction. It was by John Green. I generally like his writing, even though I've only read one of his other books before, and that was a fiction. And yeah, that generally gives the whole reason why I read it. But yeah, it was pretty good. I do recommend if you want to read just like a bunch of short essays. If you're the type of person who likes nonfiction in the form of essays conglomerated into one book. I didn't know I liked that until I read 2 of them this year, and I really enjoyed both of them. This one not as much. I rated it 4 stars, not 5 stars, but still, really enjoyed it. I got hair stuck in my glasses. We're ignoring that. But yeah, I read it. I enjoyed it. It was a good time. The only thing I have to say is that he did write it during quarantine, so the pandemic was brought up quite a few times, so if that's something you don't want to read about, I say don't do it. But otherwise, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. And yeah. Oh no, not this one. The holiday swap, for the holiday romance reading vlog. Another video in which I go freaking crazy. We will talk about that in a second because it's over the second book that I read. This book was fine. It's very much a Hallmark Netflix Christmas movie type thing. Like twin switching places, like the princess switch, and very like small town, city girl goes to small town, realizes what she has and what she wants, and how everything worked out in the end. Very Hallmarky. Those types of things, not my things. From what I understand from reading other people's reviews, the people who enjoy this are more the type of people to enjoy those types of movies. Those of us who don't like those types of movies really didn't like this book. But that's fine. Like, it's not for me. That is fine. It will go on the unhaul pile. Back on the unhaul pile. Let's be real, it was on there before. These are not, these are just here for other reasons. We're gonna turn these. I'm keeping these. But yeah, no. It was whatever. And I gave it 2 stars. And mostly it was just a letdown that I really wish I had the audiobook force to like speed through it, but I didn't, and it was really difficult to get through because of how much I disliked it. Honestly, should have DNF'd it. You know what else I should have DNF'd? Cowboy Boots for Christmas, the second book I read for that vlog. Okay. I'm trying to think of ways to explain this. To get the full gif of like what happened to me while reading that book, you should watch that vlog. It's like an 8-minute rant. It is pure chaos. I am in pain still. Okay, it has been weeks. Okay, it feels like it was a year ago. I mean, it was last year, but you get what I mean. Like it was bad. I rarely rate books 1 star. Okay, before this book, the least favorite book I had of the year was Where the Crawdads Sing, which I had at a 1.5 2-star general thing, because even if I really don't like a book or the characters or any of all that stuff, you know, I can understand that is the type of book for someone, and someone put their heart and soul into writing this book, and like it doesn't deserve a 1 star. The lowest I will go is a 1.5, and that is very rarely. I rated Cowboy Boots for Christmas 1 star because this book deserves to be burned. It is, let's see, we got racism, Islamophobia, sexism, and, slut calling a lot, and a little bit of fat phobia just sprinkled in there for fun. Yeah, no, it wasn't good. The plot itself was kind of bad. The whole entire stuff about the feuding families made me want to jump off a cliff. The writing style I knew wasn't going to be the best thing, so I wasn't surprised by that. Like, it's a cowboy holiday romance from the early 2010s, okay? I wasn't expecting the best written thing in the universe. But then you throw in all that other stuff, and I started getting icky vibes about the racism and Islamophobic. Like, I could show you receipts of me texting H and be like, bestie, I am getting racist vibes. Please send help. I don't what is happening? And then I was looking up other people's reviews, and they were talking about it, and they were like, oh no, this is like, any review that has come out in the past like few years, they understand me. There's one on Storygraph that's half a star, and that person understands me to my core. If I could rate it half a star on Goodreads, I would, because what? It was like a 2-star because of like the plot and characters and the writing in general, but then you throw in all that other stuff and it's 1 star, throw in the trash. What did I just read? The issue is that it really brought up a conversation about the way that things are rated on Goodreads, because Goodreads has over a 4-star average rating for this book. It was the highest average rating book in that whole entire vlog. Meanwhile, Storygraph is like 3.6 or something like that. More reasonable, right? Like, not great still, but more reasonable. Okay? But Goodreads had very high because there's like a lot of reviews. Like, most of the reviews you will see on the homepage, just like one or two that give it 2 stars or something like that. But otherwise, and talk about the issues. But otherwise, it's basically all middle-aged white women from the mid-2010s telling you this is a great book. And it really brings in a lot of issues with Goodreads ratings and reviews and all that stuff. And let's just say this book caused a lot of issues with me, and I hated it. And I guess we can all move on with our lives. But yeah, no, that book was bad. Don't read it. Moral of the story. And then I read Doctor Who Origins, which is a graphic novel. And also, not the first book I got from NetGalley, but the first one I finished. Because I'm a cool kid now. I got NetGalley, I want to say right the first week of December. I was like, go get it. And then, like, I'll start using it in January. And then I applied for, like, 17 books. And then I got, like, 6 of them. We'll talk about another one of them later because that review comes out in like 2 days. But I don't want to go too much into the Doctor Who one because I already have written a review. It's on Goodreads and Storygraph and Instagram, all of which are linked below. But yeah, I talked about it. Writing, or not the writing style, the art style was fine. The plot was interesting, I guess. The pacing was a little weird for me, but otherwise, it's a pretty good book. 3 stars, right? Okay, moving on. And then I read The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag. I can't read my own writing. What the hell is that? I don't know. Gay graphic novel. I rated 3.5 stars. I was a little iffy about some things, really like some other things. One thing I will state, 1, the art style is really cute. 2, the fashion, especially for the 2 main characters, iconic. Which is very fitting because the main character, tries to make her own clothes a lot. So yeah, no, it's really pretty. I really liked it. Some of the friend stuff really bothered me. Like, hear me out, you should not be mad at your friend because they won't come out to you. Like, that's your issue, not theirs. So but yeah, anyways, I had a good time. And yeah, then we get the one that I gave the favorite of the month because I didn't know what else to do, because her one's for me, which was also for the holiday reading vlog, 4 stars. It was a good time. This is fake dating, engagement of convenience type thing, but also the guy that she's fake engaged to, she learns when she goes to meet his family that his sister is the woman of her dreams who she spent a short amount of period of time with, and bada bing bada boom. Okay, I don't know whose review I saw of this recently, where they talked about how, like, the insta-lovey type thing where, like, they knew each other for, like, 1 day, had a very great day together, one passionate night together, and then they moved on with their lives for X amount of reasons, and after a year later, they see each other again, and instantly the passion starts up again, and how, like, they, like, are ruining this engagement and all this other stuff for this romance. It like, how the insta-lovey aspect of that didn't feel insta-lovey, because the way that the author wrote in those flashbacks through the comic that the main character writes about her life, the way that it's shown, their relationship and their connection doesn't feel insta-lovey. Like, it feels like it's happening throughout, like, a whole entire, like, 3 weeks, a month, something like that. But, like, it's 1 day, and it, like, it was cute, and I liked them as a couple. The third act split up thing that, like, the big drama at the end that has to stop the relationship, and so that I can jumpstart again, that type of thing. Wasn't mad about it because it makes sense. Hear me out. When she finds out that you're fake engaged to her brother and the engagement wasn't real all along for money, yeah, that would cause some rifts in the relationship. Understandable. I did see that from a mile away, but that's fine. It was good. I enjoyed it. 4 stars. Alright, yes, we get to go into the comic books. The favorite series of all time, or comic book series of all time, is Runaways, the was it 2007 through 2018, which is the ones by Brian K. Vaughan. 1 through 7, I rated 4.5 stars. The 8th one, I rated 4 stars. They were good. I don't really care much to say more. Caroline is still my love. I love her. Also, how was Chase surprised that she's gay? She is quite literally glows in Rambo. Also, Chase, really greatest character arc in the whole entire series, okay? Thank you very much. And yeah, that was a good time. I enjoyed rereading all those throughout a period of a few days, and that's all I'm really gonna say about those. I will say that I enjoyed them more than the continuation series that started, I want to say, like 2019 or something like that. That went until 2021, but also left on cliffhanger. So, like, is there gonna be a new one? I don't know. But I'll talk about those in a second because I also read all of those. But first, I reread The Battle of the Labyrinth in my continuation of rereading these books. This is the only one I know where my copy is. It is a little bent. I'll just say that. Yes, I have, like, the first editions. They're, like, the Scholastic editions. I got them from the Scholastic Fair when I was in 6th grade. It was up before I went to the high school / middle school, okay? I remember this. This is also the only one other than the first and second one that I have reread because the story, I love telling it, H hates it. When I was buying them, I couldn't find the third one, so I bought 1, 2, and 4. They were sold out during that time in the third one. So I read the first one, I read the second one. I really wanted to continue, but I didn't have the third one. So instead I read the fourth one. And then I went back, I finally found the third one, read that one, and then I reread this one, and then I read the fifth one. The first time I read it. So this was actually my third read of this one. The only other one that's the third read is the second one. I think the first one's like 7 reads. Let's be real. I reread it like almost every year. But yeah, this was great. Is there any question that it's not great? I love rereading these because every time I go to reread them, I'm like, wait a second. I just remember this random fact that happens in one of these books, and I think it's this one. Oh my god. This was good. I had a good time. I don't know where all my other ones in the series are. I have all of this series, all the King Chronicles in hardcovers, all the Heroes of Olympus in hardcovers, and then I want to say the first 2 of the Magnus Chase books in hardcovers as well. And I do not know where they are. They're somewhere in this attic. I don't know where they are, though. I call it the Void for a reason. But I do know where this one is, and that's because I put it on a different shelf when I finally found it in the attic, and I don't know. I've, like, checked all the other boxes in that area, and they weren't there. I don't know. So basically I should go on a fighting mission someday, but it's scary in there. It's a mess in there, let's be real. But yeah, I read it. It was good. 4 stars. And yeah, good time. And then I read Time as a Mother by Ocean Vuong, which I rated 3.5 stars, which is a poetry collection. It was different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more about the grief and aftermath of his mother's death, so it wasn't as much about that as I thought it was going to be, but that's fine. I still really enjoyed it. I have read a little bit of Ocean Vuong before in my queer lit class in college. We read a few of his pieces just in general. We never, like, read a whole book. I think it was when, what was the We Belong or something like that? I don't know. The one that has, like, a person curled up. If you know, you know. I think it's blue. Let's be real. I'm colorblind. I don't know what color anything is. But yeah, that one I think is what we read from. A few poetry pieces, or maybe it was, like, when that came out. Who knows? But yeah, I liked it. It was good. And also kept it as a nonfiction. Mwahaha. Cheating the system. Then I read for one of my book clubs, The Fairly Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is the first Lisa Jewell I read. I was very excited. I was like, I feel like Lisa Jewell will be for me. What? Okay, let's be real. It's more character-based. We all know I prefer plot-based. 2, every plot thing that actually happens / twist in the story / mystery, is it even really a mystery? I don't think so. I think it's just a book. but every twist in that aspect, I guess from at least a mile away, okay? The characters, I hated them. I think there was like maybe one character that I somewhat enjoyed the writing of, but otherwise, no, hated the writing. Or not the writing in general, but I hated the writing for the characters. The plot, not there. Guess it all. The mystery, what? The back and forth of the timeline, wasn't confusing because it had different narrators, so it was fine because I did it through audiobook. But like, I didn't care at all. It wasn't done in any creative way or with any real purpose, and I was just bored, and I gave it 2 stars. I really didn't like it. I like put off finishing it. Like, I was supposed to finish it, I want to say like 2 weeks prior or something like that, for the book club. I think I was supposed to finish it like the Sunday that I started it, Sunday after I started it, right? I think it took me like 3 weeks to read it because I just didn't want to pick it back up. It was not a good time. I had like an hour left with 3 times speed, and I would not pick it back up. It was real difficult, okay? But that's fine. And then I reread The Last Olympian, the last book, in the original series, right? And I gave it 3.5 stars. I low-key like wrote like 1 sentence on Good Reasons to Work. I have to explain why. Okay, weird cut because the phone started ringing. I don't know who's calling me at 11:12 a.m. but you know, that's fine. My sister didn't go like running for me, so I assume it wasn't for me. But anyways, in fantasy books in general, no matter what age range, I really don't generally enjoy end boss battles, fight battles at the end of this book. It's like supposed to be like this whole thing that's hyped up for the whole entire book, all of this stuff, and generally I really don't enjoy them. It's very difficult for me to picture them. I'm generally fine with them in the movies, because like I'm actually physically seeing it, right? Endgame was a little iffy, because the only way I could think of this when I was thinking of how to explain this last night, the only 2 movies I could think of was Infinity War and Endgame, and Endgame was a little iffy for me. Infinity War, yeah, right? I got it, right? Yeah. But in books, it's really difficult for me to picture what's happening, imagine what's happening, make it make sense in my brain. I mean, that's like the only real issue I had with Iron Widow, which is like one of my favorite books of the year. It's kind of like the only issue I have with Legendborn, which is my favorite book of the year. Even Kings of the Wild, which I really loved, that was like kind of my only issue. It's kind of a thing I have. That is 98% of the plot of The Last Olympian. Most of that book is the final it's like the final end battle at the end of a book, but it's the last book in a series, and it's what they've been hyping up, like they're finally fighting Kronos, it's all this stuff. And I was just like, okay, whatever. I didn't care. I already knew who was gonna live and who was gonna die too, so like it didn't really matter. It didn't affect me anyway. So 3.5 stars. It's still well written. I still really enjoy the characters and all that fun stuff. It's just a pet peeve kind of thing, I guess. And that's fine. And then I read the first volume of Fence by C.S. Paycat. Can I read my own handwriting? No. Which I rated 3 stars. This is the graphic novel / comic book where if I were to continue the series, that I rated 3 stars, I would continue this one. I'm not sure. One, where were the gays? I mean, I guess there were gays, but like, I assume the relationship is gonna be the enemies to lovers of the 2 roommates who fought previously and all this stuff. But the main issue I had was, one, I don't care enough about fencing or know enough about fencing to really understand what's happening here. And 2, the issue the same issue I had at Evernight, where the way that these like young or elder teens treat other people for no reason other than to create rifts in the book that the main character has to fix or to alienate this person and all this stuff, was kind of like how this whole character was treated every second of the whole entire time. And I mean, I hate that. So like, I assume it gets better throughout the book. I assume he gets to the championships. I assume all this stuff. So do I have to continue? No. Will I? I don't know. It was fine. It was a book I read. And yeah, that's that. And then there's the continuation of Runaways, which is written by Rainbow Rowell. I an iffy relationship with Rainbow Rowell. I've read a few of their books. I enjoyed some of them. I prefer Rainbow Rowell's novels over graphic novels and comic books. Let's be real. And this is further proof. Yeah, no. One, a lot of the stuff that happened felt like stuff they did to just fix issues in the original series, but also, like, I didn't view them as issues. So, like, why would you do that? And then, second off, because, like, it only caused more issues. Let's be real. At least Chase still got a character arc. The robot relationship between Gertrude and someone, not the biggest fan of. It definitely felt like the put Nico and Carolina together finally, just because, like, clearly Nico, of course, has been secretly gay this whole time, despite the fact that she's only shown interest in men, and, previously stated to Carolina that she's not into girls and all this stuff. But, like, of course they're destined to be together, so of course they end up together. Like, Nico can be straight. That's not a thing that has to be an issue. That's not an issue. Like, especially the way that in order to do that they had to ruin Carolina's other relationships. Like, great, thanks. I don't like that. And then also, a few times I would bring in characters from the previous series that were, like, previously thought dead, for, like, glow cameo things in a few of the books. So you could be like, oh my god, this character's back, how? And then they never explain anything, and it's just like, no, but this character has been dead for X amount of books. Why are they back? How are they back? What is happening? And then nothing is explained, and it was not as good as the original, let's be real. I rated all of them 3 stars, except for the second one was 3.5, because I found that one kind of funny. It had a little bit of the humor that the original had, but, like, not the same level. There was also one of the later ones that had to do with, like, joining a superhero team with this, like, old guy. I say old, I mean, I think he was, like, maybe 100 years old, so maybe that's accurate. And, like, how it was very The Boys-esque, where, like, maybe superheroes aren't actually good all the time and all this stuff. No, this guy, like, actually abused women, killed children, and, emotionally and physically abused his own child, and everyone's just like, but is he okay? Is he a good guy? No. Anyways, I'm moving on in my life. And next we're gonna talk about The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. The last classic I read, I almost said fantasy, of the year. Again, I prefer plot-driven books. This was very character-driven. 2, the way that mental illness was used throughout this book, kind of iffy. I know Sylvia Plath had her own issues, so, and I think it mentioned at the end of this book a little bit in the afterword, where it talked about how a lot of it was based off of her real experiences, right? But also, like, I didn't like the characters, so I couldn't care, and it was just meh. I don't dislike it as much as H does, but I don't like it that much. So 3 stars. And then The Governess Affair by Courtney Milan. The book that came out of left field and almost ran favorite of the month. Let's be real. I need to stretch my legs. It was a novella. If you remember when I read Kiss for Midwinter a few months ago, despite the fact that it's a Christmas book, I don't need to talk about it. It's from the same series, but it's the prologue novella. It was like 150-ish pages, and it was a good time. I was worried because as I went to read it, I forgot I had it. I owned it. And as I went to read it, and I was like, oh, I tend to, like, when I go to click currently reading on Storygraph, I tend to, like, check the content warnings while I'm there. I'm like, what? Yeah, there's essay and other terms in that department. A lot in that, and I was just very scared. And I get, yeah. But hear me out. Hugo, the love interest in this book, I am 99.9% sure the reason why I'm so into him is because, and hear me out, consent. when they do yeah, it was a good time. Typical marriage of convenience. She has been wronged by his boss. You can guess why. And now she's pregnant, and it's an issue, and she's trying to fight for a chance for her child to live a life that he deserves, and all this stuff. And his boss just wants him to get rid of her, and in any means necessary. And in having conversations and him seeing like how strong she really is and all this stuff, they start a relationship. They like flirt occasionally. He flirts with her and she's just like, whatever, weirdo. But they end up really connecting. He's like the first man in a while to make her feel safe. Her relationship with her sister was kind of iffy. I didn't really care much about it. But eventually he agrees to kind of basically marry her so that her child has protection, which is what she wanted all along, and she can live the life she dreams of, and all this stuff, and so that he can continue his work, because the whole entire reason why he wants to get rid of her is because if he continues working for his boss for X amount more time, he'll get all this money, but if boss's wife finds out about the baby, she will leave him, and then he won't get her money, and therefore he doesn't get his money, right? Does that make sense? There's a lot of stuff about his childhood, very sad, and how he doesn't think he's worthy of anything, and all that stuff, and how he thinks, the only reason he can become worthy is if he has money, and all this stuff, and really, he helps her through a lot of her trauma, and she helps him through a lot, and he realizes, money isn't everything, and the marriage of convenience becomes true love. And also it's a prequel to the series, and I am currently reading the first full-length novel in the series, and I'm having a good time. Anyways, I rated it 4 stars, and it almost became the favorite of the month. I almost did it. It was very close. It was good. It was good, fam. It came out of left field, and it hit me in the heart. I don't know how to feel about that. And then I listened to the audiobook of All the Dangerous Things by Stacy Willingham, the author of A Flicker in the Dark. Is that the name of it? I own that one. That's if you didn't see The Holiday Romance, I did an unboxing of my book of the month because this came in that, and I got a finalist, but I already own The Love Hypothesis, so I had to choose a new one, and I just picked the mystery thriller, which is the debut by Stacy Willingham. I think it's the debut. And this is her second book, which I think comes out in February. I don't know. Let's be real. I don't know. Anyways, I don't know how I got accepted for the audiobook, because I had been accepted by one other book, and that's it. And I had no reviews or anything on NetGalley, but I did. I got the audiobook, and then I listened to all of it, and it was fine. I'm not gonna go too much into it, because the review does come out in a few days for me. It's already been out for 3 days for you, so like just check out my review. That will be on Goodreads, Storygraph, and Instagram if you want to know about it. But basically the stuff about motherhood and women being treated differently in general, and thinking that they're crazy just in general, but also like womanhood and how that affects you and all that stuff. Not something I generally enjoy reading about, especially when a bunch of men are basically telling this woman she's absolutely crazy, and I know by the end of it, it's gonna be proved that, like, she actually does know what she's doing, and she was right all along, and you all suck. That's something I really hate in mystery thrillers. So, yeah, the premise I really enjoyed. The plot itself I kind of enjoyed. The twist at the end of, like, the whodunit and all that fun stuff, meh. The writing style I really, really enjoyed, and I should definitely read that other book, because I think it also has a thing with, I believe that one's the one where her father was a serial killer, and it's been X amount of years, but, like, there's been more killings since recently, and so it's either a copycat or her dad wasn't the original killer, and yeah, I think I would really like it. So far, from what I can tell, she does do a lot of stuff about true crime and how that affects the world and all that stuff. And like All Dangerous Things were from the point of view of a person who was a victim of a crime type situation. and so all that. So like, even though it wasn't my type of book, I still enjoyed it enough to give it 3 stars, and it was a good time. Moving on into the last book, which also came out of left field and destroyed me, which is Starfish by Lisa Phipps. Not the one that you told me to read, H. I'm sorry. Okay, so like, I knew it was middle grade poetry collection story about fat phobia and body image, right? I knew that much. I do generally read a few of those types of books every year, middle grade books written in poetry format, about generally cultures that I don't really know personally about a lot, but generally people I don't know much about, and lives I don't know much about. And I do generally like a lot of them. I think Starfish is my favorite. Like, I don't know, the writing sometimes I was like, meh. There are a few of them that I was like, whatever. But the plot, the stuff with the mother, I was destroyed. I cried multiple times when she would like just internally talk about how her mother treats her and she doesn't feel loved by her own mother, because her mother wants her to get surgery at like 11 years old so she's not fat anymore, and she doesn't feel like she can be loved because her mother always treats her this way. I was just sitting in bed at 11 p.m. crying over this book. It was good. It was good. That's all we need to know. It was good. It came out of left field. Should have become the favorite of the month. I don't know. I don't think I've sit on it long enough to really decide whether or not it could be a favorite of the month. So that's why it was Kiss Runs for me instead. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was really good. If you can handle the topics of heavy bullying, and fat phobia, body image stuff, eating disorders, I would recommend it, especially the audiobook. If it is too much for you to handle, understandable, because I don't personally have any history with any of that stuff, but I do have personal history with like bullying, and that sound effect explains my feelings. Anyways, this is officially 53 minutes and much shorter than I thought it was gonna be, honestly. Let's be real, I was expecting an hour and a half. So I'm gonna leave it off and say yay to the new year, new reading goals. I'm not gonna go too crazy. I have some plans for the new year, some new reading, yay. And yes, so that's that. I already mentioned all my social media linked below, all the vlogs mentioned linked above in the cards. And the next video that should go up is the first weekly reading vlog of 2023, because all of January I'm doing weekly reading vlogs instead of themed vlogs, and the first one is from the 1st through the 7th, which is the day that this goes up. So yeah, have fun with that, and I'll see you then. Until next time.